All right, guys, this is Lewis again. Thanks for joining. My name is Lewis Rowlands. I'm a nutritional balancing practitioner. And in this video, we've got another testimonial. This week, we're talking to Joe Glogowski. Joe suffered from various different ailments a couple of years back now. He's been on the program 2 years. He's doing really, really well on the program. Is already quite a big part really of kind of the people I speak to in nutritional balancing. So he's one that's really committed to the program. So we're very happy that he's come to speak to us today about his experience. This is live, so anyone watching, feel free to ask questions. And at the end of the testimonial, I'll ask them to Joe, and we can take it from there. So Joe, take it away, man. Tell us a little bit about your history, how you got into the program, and how it's helped you.
Sure. So, to bring it all the way back, because I think it's important to kind of start at the beginning, is, I grew up in a traditional Christian home. I grew up in Texas, any of y'all familiar? And so I definitely had a kind of church upbringing in a lot of ways. But, it's kind of funny if I really reflect on these times when I was going to the youth groups at the churches and stuff. And I really had a hard time kind of like fitting in with the church going peers of mine. They were mostly going there to kind of like hang out with their friends, and it was like cool, and they all knew each other. And I didn't really know them like that. It was more like I just knew them on Sunday, and I'd go to church. And like I'd be more interested in like learning about God and the Bible and all these other kind of things, right? But it was kind of a turnoff because I'd go to these, church Sunday school teachings with my peers, and they could care less for the most part, right? It was more just it was cool to hang out with their friends, and I was actually more interested in like the meaning of the scriptures and the study and the Bible study and all that kind of stuff. So at an early age, I was actually really into I don't know what we want to call it, spiritual realm. But I also had a hard time fitting in with my peers because I think I took it more seriously than them. And this is even like at a young age, this is probably in grade school, third grade, second grade, things like that, where I'd be having a conversation at church, but I could really only connect with the teacher because the teacher was a little bit older, right? And they could kind of see where I was coming from, and everybody else, again, wasn't as interested. So I had a pretty interesting upbringing in that regard, but at the same time, I kind of got turned off to church in a lot of ways because of that, because I couldn't really connect with anybody. So going into college, even though I went to Texas A&M, which is a pretty conservative school, and there's definitely a lot of people that are, fundamental Christians out there, all really good people. I go to A&M, and that's kind of when I stopped really going to church and stopped really caring about it as much. And, I think that happens to a lot of people. It's definitely just the culture that we live in today where it's not really a priority. So people just kind of slip out of it. And it's more fun to stay up late on Saturday drinking than it is to wake up early to go to church on a Sunday and things like that, So I did that for, obviously I was in school for about 4 years and I graduated. After I graduated, I was working in Houston for about a year doing software development. And then about a year into it, the girl I was dating at the time, her name was Rebecca. We knew each other at A&M. I graduated a little early, so like I was already working before any of my friends were. She ended up graduating, and she got accepted into the University of Michigan cognitive neuroscience. So she's very bright. And she decided she was going to go up there, and up there is in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I was kind of at the point where my first job out of school was really stressing me out, to be honest with you. It was a real-time energy trade floor, and it was just a 24/7 market. And if you're familiar with software and support and all that kind of stuff, it's just like anytime there was an issue, it was all hands on deck, and we spent a lot of time, effort, and energy, and very stressful.
This time?
How old was I?
16, 17?
No. So this is after I graduated college. So I'm probably 22,
Okay.
roughly.
Cool.
So I'm about 22. I'm dating this girl.
In England, it's a little bit different. College is like university in England. People don't finish university until like 21.
Okay. Yeah, it's basically, I guess in America, it's, elementary school, middle school, high school, then you go to college, then you graduate, and then you start your real world kind of job and all that kind of stuff. So I just started the real world, and my girlfriend decides she wants to go to Michigan. So I was kind of at that point where I didn't necessarily know if we were going to get married or anything, but we were serious enough, and I didn't like my job enough. And I was like, let's just, and it's something totally different. I grew up in Texas my whole life. I was like, maybe it's time to try something new. Next thing you know, I'm living up in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And Ann Arbor, Michigan's a very liberal town. Just very, I kind of was shell shocked, honestly, just like I don't know exactly what to call it, but just kind of the agnostic, atheist, godless society, low morals and things along that nature. It didn't really bother me in a way. I could definitely go out there and participate in all the, activities that they were participating in, but it was just people don't talk like that where I grew up. So it was one more thing. It was like the final nail in the coffin of my whole, I'm having a hard time connecting with people spiritually. Then I move up there. And then I'm with all these kind of atheist agnostics people, and then since it's politics, people like to talk about it's pretty topical, and they're very into it. So it comes up all the time in our conversations, and that was kind of when I just kind of checked out. I was like, okay, I don't know if there's a God. I don't really know if Christianity is real. Who knows? It's too hard to figure out. It's too complicated, etc. Right? So I pretty much at that point, I kind of dropped out of the whole, I don't know, God thing, right? So then fast forward a little bit, I was really only up there for about a year and a half. I moved back down to Houston, that's Houston, Texas. And then I was at this job. It really sucked. It was super stressful, long hours, burned me out a lot. I go to another job, which actually was a really great job. This was about 2013. I started this new job. And I can remember it kind of distinctly because right about that time, I got this new job. It's pretty cool. I think it's a good opportunity. But at the same time, I started having sleeping issues around that time. And to preface it, you'll see I graduated when I'm 22. I'm about 26 now, so it's about 4 years later. Through that whole time, I'd have kind of like these up and down cycles of like my sleep wasn't very good. It's kind of weird. It'd be like I'd have like a good month and I'd have like a bad month. I'd have a good month, I'd have a bad month, right? I hit about this age of 26. I've been, working in the real world for a couple of years now. Always kind of stressed out. I guess I just get stressed out real easily, especially when it comes to my job. And I go to the doctor to see if there's anything they can do for me. And that was the first time I got any prescription ever in my whole life. And it was Ambien, Ambien, the sleep pill. And, I kind of read some of the warnings about how it can be dangerous and stuff. But at the same time, I was like, if it's that dangerous, why would they be handing it out to me? I'm a doctor. They know what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, I'll just, I'll start this kind of doing the whole taking these meds, and it'll help me sleep. And it did. It really did. I noticed right away I'd take those meds. I'd go to my room. I'd pretty much pass out, and it was pretty acceptable. It was a lot better than the previous, where I was just kind of having these very kind of, I don't know, the sleepless nights. For anybody who's experienced them, they're pretty rough, especially when you're stressed out, especially when you have a racing mind, which I definitely did. And it just like the littlest thing would you'd replay in your head over and over and over again, and it's just you can't get past it, and then you finally do get past it, but then like the next little thing plays over and over in your head, and you're tossing and you're turning, and you just can't make it work. So at that point, taking a pill and passing out for a couple hours was a pretty good option for me.
For sure.
At least I thought so, right? So I'm doing this at the same time. I guess I to preface a lot of this too is like I was always really into physical fitness. So I would like normally be at the gym working out. In high school, I grew up. I was a swimmer. I played water polo, those kind of sports. So I was always doing fitness in some regard. About the same time, I kind of started this new job and I started taking this Ambien. I really got into Ironman triathlon training. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Ironman at all, but it's kind of like the ultimate, triathlon. And it's because I was living with this guy and he did it, and he was like a little bit more of an overweight guy. And then he decided I was going to do this thing. He lost a lot of weight, got in super shape. And then like he'd take me on runs with him, and I'd start doing that with him every now and then. The next thing you know, I kind of picked it up as a hobby of myself. So I was training and doing these things for about a year and a half, which felt really good. I really enjoyed running and doing that kind of training. What you kind of learn now that I have a little bit of reflection is I was definitely using it as a stimulant to get through my days. Like if I didn't get that run, I would just feel terrible. If I didn't get that cardio exercise, I would feel terrible, real bad. Yeah. So I'm like super addicted to exercise. It's getting me through the day, and it's nice when you have like this you know, ultimate Ironman triathlon that you're training for really motivates you to like kind of keep it going. But I didn't, and when I look back at it, I'm like, yeah, it was definitely just a stimulant pulling me along. During the time, it was just like, yeah, this is cool. This is what people do. This is, exciting, and I'm just gonna go for it. So, again, so now I'm like, I have this new job. I'm taking this Ambien. I'm stressing myself out and on an exercise perspective. And then a little bit later, I'm like, you know what? I want to buy a house. So I ended up buying this house in kind of downtown Houston, and it's a pretty cool little house. And I'm like probably one of the youngest people of my age group to actually buy a house, and so I was feeling like pretty cool about everything. And I decided what I would do is I would just kind of rent out the rooms to people I knew, and then that way I could own the house and get some renters income and do all that kind of good stuff, right? Well, the funny thing about that is while it worked really well, the house in itself was just another stress in my life,
Right.
and living with people also was a stress in my life because like I knew these people pretty well. They're my friends and everything. And the thing
Yeah.
I had a problem with, and probably still kind of do have a problem with, is like if when people I know have problems or drama or whatever it may be, I like to get wrapped up to it, or I would get wrapped up in it. You know what I mean? So I would just like, and we had like a lot of interesting drama at that time in like our little friend group. So it was definitely stressing me out on that front too. And then like, of course, with the house, it's like every time a little thing goes wrong, like I feel really responsible in getting it fixed. And, uh, it's just one of those 24/7 little things that are always nagging me in the back of my mind. So it's like,
Right.
okay, so now I have that whole stressor. And then at the same time, in that same period, I've also been pretty ambitious in my life in terms of entrepreneurial ventures. So I bought this house, and like, I don't know, 2 blocks down, there was this empty warehouse. And I always really wanted to start a warehouse gym. So I was like, this is pretty cool. I call them up. The rent was pretty cheap. Like, kind of this older couple who was willing to work with me if I could just kind of, do what I wanted with it. And it was going to be affordable for me to kind of start this warehouse gym. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. So uh, I like literally buy the gym, outfit it with all this cool stuff. If you're familiar with the CrossFit gym, it kind of started to look along those lines, some of the equipment that I had in there. And I was pretty stoked about it, and I really wanted to turn it into something cool. But this is about the time when my body like wouldn't let me do any more than I was already doing,
Right.
So
Yeah.
my goal was I'd go to work, I'd come home, I would do the gym after hours, and like I'd find like some professionals in the area who wanted to come in and do classes after work, who kind of were on my schedule. And I run like little classes, and I'd make a little income that way, and it'd be really cool, really fun, right? Well, I could never actually get to that point because what would happen is I'd be going to work, I'd come home, and I'd like be so tired because I'm not sleeping very good at this point. Yes, I'm taking these medications and stuff, but they're not working like they used to work. You know what I mean? And for anybody who's taking these medications, they also realize like you definitely get sleep, but it's not any sort of quality deep sleep. I feel like I'm always grogged out or not right. I'm just always tired, even though I just passed out for a couple hours. It's kind of like if you've ever been drunk, and you have like that drunk pass out sleep and you wake up and then you don't even feel like you've been refreshed at all. That's kind of
Yeah.
the path that I was going on with this. So I'm doing this gym, and like the gym's also stressing me out. I mean, it's just one more thing, and I'm trying to get it up and running. And I spent about 6 months, and I put good effort into it. I put a lot of money into it too. All that money was basically flushed down the toilet because I legitimately didn't have the energy to do it. All I could do is go to work, come home, sleep, and then in an effort to, live the dream of the warehouse gym, I'd go there and work out a little bit more, and then I'd come home and go to sleep, and then that would be it over and over again. I was just trying to get it to turn into something, but it never really manifested. So luckily for me, though, I had somebody came along, they were interested in it. I was able to sell the gym out to them, and I was able to kind of get that out of my life. So then, the same time, I'm kind of at work, and I get this new project, and I kind of am with these new people I'm dealing with, and I meet this guy, and like I kind of tell him about my sleep problems and stuff, and he's like, "Oh man, I can probably help you with that. I got something that will do you good." And he started giving me Xanax, So I decided that I would take that in addition to this Ambien. So I was kind of like coupling it right before I go to sleep. And then I was like, man, I'm back to sleep. Like my life is good. Everything's great again. Like, cause that's like my number one problem. It's just like, I'm so tired all the time. Right. And I'm always looking to get that sleep. And so it was just like this new drug got entered into my life, and we're buying these things off of like, the black market internet kind of thing. This isn't through any prescription or anything. So who knows what was in those things, when you look back at it.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, I am just destroying my body left and right by not getting enough rest. I'm also, very much on the bro supplement kind of regimen where I'm eating the protein powders, I'm taking the workout supplements and all that other kind of stuff. And, then I'm taking these like prescription pills to sleep at night. My body's getting weaker and weaker. And then I had this great idea. I was like, you know what? Since I'm doing all this workout stuff, I was like, why don't I go on some steroids? A small little steroid cycle. That'll get me what I want, right? I was like, I could use an extra. I was like, I could use an extra like 20 pounds to my frame. That'd look pretty good, right? So I decided I was going to do that as well, right? So it's like after I did all that Ironman training, after I did all that stressful stuff with the warehouse gym, I'm back on like the bro supplement kind of lifestyle, and I'm taking. I decided to do the steroid cycle as well. So probably a lot of it too is because like I needed the next like thing to get me going, right? That's like a reoccurring pattern. It's like I'll do something, it'll burn me out, and then I'll find something new that'll kind of give me that next high, and I'll run through that, and then it'll burn me out, and I'll find the next thing. So now it was like steroids is like my new thing. So I did that, and I mean, how long are the cycles? It's probably about 12 weeks, I think, is the way those cycles kind of work. So I did that, and at the same time, I was like, I'm going to do this bulk diet. Like, I want to put on some weight. So I went from 175 pounds to 220 pounds in like less than 12 weeks. And I was just eating. I mean, it was a dirty bulk, I mean, I'm going to bed at night. I'm drinking like whole glasses of milk and like a ring of Oreos just to try to put on this weight. Because I've always been pretty skinny my whole life. And I was kind of excited about the prospect of becoming just this big dude. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that was cool to me, right? So. But the thing that happened during that steroid cycle is like I kind of messed up when I was doing it. So I went to the doctor one time for something else. I don't really remember what it was. And they took my blood pressure, and it was super high, like alarmingly high. You know what I mean? And I did the same. And for about a month, I got it checked 3 or 4 more times, and it was the same reading, just high, 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 right? And it really freaked me out. And it really put me back in this situation where I'd go to sleep at night. I'd try to lay down, and like I could feel like the beating in my chest. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like I'm trying to go, and like I'm like all out of medicine at this point or something. So like it's one of those kind of cycles, and like so I literally just feel like everything's falling apart. At the same time, I have all these other funny issues where like I sit in front of a computer all day. So when I come home, I have like the worst eye strain you could ever possibly imagine. My eyes are just always red. They're always dry. It's funny because like all my friends after work, they'll come home, they'll watch Netflix and do all that kind of stuff. And then they'll be talking about everything they're watching. And I'm literally like the total opposite. I'm like, I can't even turn on a screen when I get home. It just hurts my eyes so much, And I just kind of wanted to be normal too. It was like, I really just want to come home and watch Netflix and talk about like, Game of Thrones and things like that with my friends. But like, I don't even have the energy to watch more screens. You know what I mean? Like my body won't let me. And then at the same time, I was having this problem with my wrist. And but again, I'm a software developer, so I'm in front of a computer a lot. And I thought to myself that, hey, it's probably carpal tunnel. Like, I think that's what it is. But I also didn't really want to. There was part of me that like was hoping it was carpal tunnel because like you can get this surgery and then it, basically the pain goes away. And the pain was so much at that point in time, I was kind of excited at the idea of just like a little snip operation would get me back on track. But at the same time, I was all into this like working out and getting the gains and all that kind of stuff, right? And I was like, well, if I get that carpal tunnel surgery, then like I won't be able to lift weights and like that's gonna all fall off too. So like I didn't really know what to do. So I actually went and got it tested. And it turned out it was tendonitis in my wrist. So tendonitis is just inflammation in your wrist. And I've been dealing with that inflammation for like 4 years. Pretty painful, daily, constant nagging, just one of those little things that nobody else can relate to it. So you explain it to people and, it's also kind of embarrassing. So I wouldn't talk about it that much. You know what I mean? Just because like you're always in like, it's like a sissy pain. I don't exactly know how I would describe it, but I felt that way about it. So I'm like, all right, like everything's falling apart. I think I even one of the things that would happen is I'd go to the bathroom, I'd go take a pee, and like I could feel my kidneys like squeezing on my back, and I had a lot of like lower back pain too. So it's like I had like these weird inflamed kidney issues in addition to having my wrists were in pain all the time from this inflammation, in addition to having this eye strain, in addition to being tired all the time, in addition to not nourishing my body correctly and just being probably in total burnout, you know what I mean? Being too stressed out, having too much racing thoughts, and everything was just kind of going south. And I remember when I got introduced to the program, basically what happened was I go to the dentist down the road, and I had to get like a mouth guard, because like the thing to get this Ambien prescription, you either have to like do something new to like prove that you need it, you know. So I
Right.
go to the dentist down the street, and like I'm talking to the dentist about my problems a little bit, and my dentist that actually knows my sister. They both went to dental school together, so like, you know, they're like, oh, you know, I don't know, we all kind of know each other somewhat.
Mm.
And the receptionist at the time, her name was Rachel. She kind of overheard me and the dentist talking, and like a week later, she sends me an email. She's like, "Hey, I heard about your sleep problems. Here's a link," and it was Dr. Wilson's Insomnia article link, right?
Wow.
So
Wow.
I read it, and I was like, at that point, I was so ready for anything. I was like, awesome. Like, what's up? You have any more information on it? Yeah, you know, blah blah blah. And she was basically at the point where she was trying to start a little side business to get some side cash. She wanted to cook meals for people. You know, she wanted to cook nutritional meals for people. And she was like, well, let's have a consultation or whatever. I was like, perfect. So we met up well, I'll say this. She scheduled something on the calendar, and the day before we go to meet up, I'm on my phone and I'm reading Dr. Wilson's article again. And then like I just kind of go on that, oh, well, this website's kind of weird, right? What's up with this
Yeah.
website? So I go to the all article, and I'm just like, you know, I click on a link and it takes me here and it takes me here, and it's just bouncing all over the place. The next thing you know, I spent like 4 hours just reading all this stuff, right? And it was all really crazy. Later, it was all really crazy stuff, and for some reason, I was super like zoned in and attracted to it too, right? Like I couldn't put it down. I'm reading about chakras. I don't even know what chakras are. You know, I've heard of them. There's some Eastern thing or whatever, but you know, I'm reading all this stuff, so I got really intrigued. So the next day, I go and I meet up Rachel, and we have a chat, and I kind of left it, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm down. Like, let's just do it. You know, like I'll be hands off. You're the expert. I need help. Like I will legitimately let you drive this vehicle, which is kind of rare for me too, because I always like to have a little bit of control in these type of things, and you know, something I'm an expert in, like, you know, taking care of myself. I was like, there's no way this girl can know more than, you know, I know. That'd just be silly. So she kind of starts doing this whole cooking for me thing, and she lived right down the road, so I'd go over there and I would just pick it up like once a week. You know, she'd cook it for me, I'd pick it up, do that kind of thing. And real quick, I mean, I want to say within a month or two, I started feeling just better. Like there was just something, I wasn't feeling better, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
So how much of the program was you doing? You was just having the diet, or she was cooking your meals?
she was cooking me meals, and she also got me supplements as well. Now, the thing about Rachel, too, is she was doing the program, but she was also kind of doing it a little bit unconventional, because she was working with a nutritionist as well. And so,
Right.
like, a lot of the supplements we got were from him, because he kind of hooked it up and gave us this discounted kit. So you're familiar with that brand Standard Process?
Oh
That
yeah.
was the brand. That was the brand we were using. But even just doing the diet and just doing the supplements, about 2 months in, I was started feeling a whole lot better, right? And that's when I was kind of like a little more intrigued. So I'd get back on Dr. Wilson's website. I was reading about it a lot more. And one of the things that happened early on is like I kind of came across the whole pushing down article thing, and it didn't really make sense. So one of these days I go over to Rachel's house to pick up my food, and this was like the day before the Super Bowl in 2017, because I remember pretty vividly. That Super Bowl is also in Houston, which is also where I live. And I was kind of like, I was reading the website. There's this cool thing. You gonna show me how to do it? And she was like, sure. So we go up into a room and we do like this pushing down exercise for like 15 minutes. She's kind of just coaching me through it as I do it. And I was like, oh, hey, I can feel like a little bit of a tingling sensation in my hand. That's cool, right? So I was like, all right, well, that was weird. Like, I didn't really know what to think about it, but I was like, okay, I'm going to go. Like, I got to go. I truck and I'm driving back to my place. And like, as I'm driving home, like I start shivering, like just insane. Like these chills were coming through me or whatever. At that point, I was a little scared. I was like, what just happened? What was that tingling thing? This girl's probably a witch or something. She just cast some spell on me. I don't know what's going on. You know, it had me real freaked out. And I called her and I was like, what's going on? And she's like, I don't know. I don't really remember what she said, but she just made me feel a little bit better about the whole thing. So I get home and then I go up to my room and I just like I pass out. I pass out on my bed as hard as I've ever passed out in the last 8 years of my life, you know? And for about 2 hours there, I was just down. I wake up, there's like a pool of drool everywhere and all that kind of stuff. And I just kind of had this extremely strange, what just happened kind of reaction. I didn't know what to think of it. Very, very strange. And when that kind of happened, that's when I kind of got, that was probably the wake up call, right? Where I was like, man, there's something about this whole Dr. Wilson woo woo stuff, then I need to pay more attention to it, right? And so then, I'm doing about 3 months into the program. I had glasses at work, and I'm one day I'm just in front of the computer, and I'm like, man, I'm getting a headache. So I take my glasses off, and I'm like, man, I can see the screen pretty well. I don't need these glasses anymore, right? I was like, man, I just don't need them like right now, right? So I took them off, and that was like 2 years ago, and I've never put them back on since, right? So literally, it's like I was blind and then I could see. I was like, that's kind of cool, right?
Do you think that was the program doing that, or?
That's how I feel about it. It had to be. That was the only thing that was different.
Yeah, eyesight has a lot to do with health. That's one secret that not many people know about. When people get poor health, it does affect your eyes. If you're looking into the future too much, if you're looking into the past. So, it doesn't surprise me at all, really. So that's a good little testimonial there for eyesight.
Yeah, I literally put those glasses down and I was done with it, right? Then like a month later, I was noticing I was breathing, and I was like, man, it's funny. Like I'm used to being really kind of stuffy and just having like this buildup in my sinuses. I'm like, I'm breathing like deep air that I've never breathed before. And like there's air getting into places in my forehead that I didn't even know existed, So I was like, man, that's crazy. My lower back pain, I was telling you about my kidneys kind of being inflamed, that started to go away too. And then like the real
and the saunas at this point at
all? So I guess I think it was after my eyesight came back. That's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna start doing this coffee enema stuff, right? So I was really just doing the diets and the supplements for about 2 months, and then that happened. Then I was a little more intrigued.
Lifestyle improving as well, resting.
Yeah, I'm definitely starting to take it a lot more easy, which was really hard to do, because like I'm just again used to that kind of stimulant thing. But I was so focused on I was starting to get these results that I wasn't thinking about all that stuff. Yeah, it wasn't bothering me. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, I was slowing down. I was doing this thing, but I felt like I needed to be here and I needed to be doing this stuff. So it didn't really bother me that much yet. So I pick up the coffee enemas. I buy a little lamp. I start doing the sauna thing, and this is maybe about the 3rd month into it or whatever, right? And I'm actually really happy at this point. I'm feeling good. I'm starting to feel better. These weird symptoms, my wrists are starting to feel a lot better. That was a huge one for me. I'm starting to turn around here. This is good. And then I go on YouTube, and there was some testimonial that I watched, and I don't remember who it was. It was some girl. I remember in the testimonial, she talked about the shower head, turning on her and washing her when she was really beat up and she was having a downtime. It was an angelic event that she experienced. And she mentioned
what? For a testimony about what?
About nutritional balancing.
Right.
Yeah, it was one that I forget, it was a 2-year journey. It was an hour long or something. And she talked about it, and I was like, actually, when I listened to that, I kind of got depressed. I really did, because I was like, this is going to take 2 years. I thought I could just pound it out in 3 or 4 months. Everything would be better. I'd be good to go, right? I was like, 2 years. I was like, no. And then I started looking up more and more. It's 3 years, 5 years. I'm like, is this a lifestyle? Yeah, I'm like, is this actually a whole lifestyle? This isn't just a little quick fixer-upper kind of thing, right? Because I always thought I was I'll just feel better. I'll take some of the tenets to heart, and I'll just kind of keep living life like I normally do for the most part, right? And so when that happened, I started to get real depressed in a lot of ways, because I knew I would, there was a part as I'm giving up everything, hanging out with friends, going to get alcohol, going to the movie, staying up late, as I just slowly start giving up all these things. It's funny because on one side of the coin, I'm I need to do this. And on the other side of the coin, it was this is hard to do, And I start talking to my friends. There are certain people in my life I just kind of had to stop talking to. And some of it wasn't even because they were just bad influence. It was just it was stretching myself too much. I had to just really cut the fat, stay lean, stay mean, stay focused on this whole thing. So yes. I cut a lot of people out. I'm also kind of embarrassed about this program because it's not really that fun to talk about coffee enemas and the push down. And oh, by the way, the guy I'm learning this all from talks about ELFs on his website, so he's a good source, right? Just very unconventional in a lot of ways. And of course I'm still learning a lot about it too, so I can't really speak to it very confidently. I can't tell you yin and yang. I couldn't explain it. I just kind of knew like, oh yeah, that's yin. You shouldn't do it, right? But I didn't have a lot to back it. So from the first 3 months were great. The next like 6 months or so were super tough. It was really just me pulling it all back in, slowing down, getting off all the stimulants that is life, learning about how tired I was, learning about how sick I was, right? Learning about how much work this program is and how much of a sacrifice it is to the kind of worldly things, right? But the funny thing about that is it was actually a great thing. I mean, like now I can definitely look back and say it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me was just getting sick like this and like having that traumatic kind of pulling everything in experience, and we talk about this in the program a lot where we say like the kingdom of heaven is within and first seek the kingdom of heaven and all that kind of stuff. Talk about the personality integration. That was kind of hard for me as well because it was just all the things in life that I would kind of use to identify myself as became meaningless really fast, so I just kind of had to say goodbye to all of it. And all my friends thought I was crazy, because they're like, what's going on with Joe? He's like not the same person as he was 6 months ago. He was doing this. Now he won't even touch it. Right. So it's kind of hard for me to deal with that. Luckily, though, I had Rachel, and Rachel was like she was a freaking rock. You know what I mean? Like she's been on the program for a long time. She had a lot of issues she was overcoming. She gave me a lot of strength just watching her overcome and seeing where she was kind of like, hey, I can get to that point, where she's really calm.
She's working under Dr. Wilson practitioner.
No, she was kind of doing it a little bit off the cuff in a lot of ways. She's doing it now. She's doing it under a practitioner, right? So
maybe we should get her on the YouTube channel.
She's a good one. I would recommend it. You should. She has a good story.
Let her know. Ask her about it.
Yeah, I will for sure. Cool. So anyway, she's kind of my rock. I'm looking up to her. She's pulling me through it, and that's a nice thing too, because like the program is pretty hard when you're going through a lot of things. You gotta reach out to somebody. I feel like that's very key, and I know Dr. Wilson talks about this, and we talk about it. It's not like a solo journey. You know what I mean? And it really helped me too when Luke, or you guys had the YouTube channel. And like I could just get that little content feed, like I was like, there's somebody else out here that is experiencing these things and they're talking about these things. And like just kind of like those little things are kind of keeping me going and keeping me going and keeping me going. Basically until the point where I just kind of reached acceptance. There's kind of that point, right? So it took about 9-10 months of me doing it to kind of really get an idea of like how important this program is and what it's really all about and what development is and what God is and what love is and, what the world is and why it's toxic and why we have to be not worldly and be in the world but not of it. And just kind of take it to that next level. Like, oh, okay, this is kind of what life is supposed to be. And this is how we're supposed to live, So to get to that point, about 10 months and, very interesting ups and downs during it. A lot of new things, a lot of kind of going inside and getting away from everybody else. That was key too, just for me personally, because it's pretty easy for me to get caught up in other people like, hey, let's go do this, and hey, let's go do this. So my advice to anybody starting the program is, definitely find somebody you can kind of confide in. I think it will help you a lot. Helped me a lot, and it got me to that breaking point. Because now it's not that bad. Now actually I really love the program. Like I look forward to the coffee enemas and the push downs and the saunas, and it gets me through the day in a good healthy way. I'm more excited about that. It's more for me. It's more like work is just kind of something I got to do just to kind of pay bills right now, and I just do it. But whereas before I might identify with work, like this is what I do, this is all my accomplishments and stuff. Now it's like, well, like that's something I kind of need to do. But I really identify with this nutritional balancing stuff, right? And I really identify with this idea of development and kind of going on that straight and narrow path. And I'm now more interested in, looking around the world, seeing people that are sick, seeing people that were like me. That's kind of where my heart is right now. It's like when I see people that were like me, where they're living this normal life and they're doing everything they're supposed to do, and they're sick and they can't fix it, and all they do is go to a doctor talks to them for 10 minutes to give them a pill, and they take that pill, and that pill ends up messing them up even more, so they go to the doctor again and take another pill, it messes them even more and more, and you're just kind of doing what you're supposed to do, and it's just vicious at that point, right? So it's like you need that kind of saving grace to kind of come in and pull you out. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's like I'm definitely I still got a long ways to go. I'm not perfect by any means. the good news is, again, I'm like off all my medications. I still kind of have sleepless nights where it's kind of tough for me to get through in a lot of ways, but it's about 110% better than it really was. So I'm really grateful for it.
Great.
Yeah, so I guess that's kind of where I am right now. I'm hoping I could do this testimonial just to kind of get it out. I don't really do like the talking of the YouTube thing, so it's kind of like my first go on this front. And
No, it's been
hopefully it'll be
great.
hopefully it'll be a blessing to somebody. You know, somebody. I listened to a testimonial, and it was a blessing to me. Like that definitely set the course. So hopefully this will do something for somebody else. You know.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. I think it's been really enlightening testimonial. It's a little bit different because you know, I tend to get a lot of people come to me that suffer from like serious derealization and stuff like that, but you've come from a slightly different angle, especially focusing on the insomnia sort of things. How's the racing mind sort of stuff
Man,
going on? Has the pushing down exercise improved that?
oh yeah. I mean, so very night and day. Whereas before I could never put a thought down, and something would, again, kind of like I was mentioning, it would play in the back of my mind over and over again and stress me out a little bit.
Yeah.
It's like those things aren't really that important. I can really just put them aside, and I can kind of compartmentalize my brain a little bit easier. Be like, these are things that really aren't that problematic. These are things maybe I can think about later. I don't have to stress about them right now. And then like being kind of in the present is what I need to focus on. And right now, presently, like I need to go to sleep and kind of get good rest so I can take on the day tomorrow. You know,
Sure.
a lot of that is from the push down exercise.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really nice how you know, we've got some groups on WhatsApp and Telegram that we speak to, and you know, Joe kind of speaks to us quite a lot. And just to reiterate how important it is for you guys listening to work with a practitioner, you know, to send your practitioner emails, to, you know, I have a WhatsApp group in you know, for my clients, and just speaking about it. And that's really the key. I'm sure Joe will expand on this a little bit. Is the key to healing is kind of in many ways you've got to kind of dive into the program a little bit, dive into the information, dive into the YouTube, and get to know people that are on the program as well, because the people around you are very, you know, it's very unlikely that they're going to really understand what you're getting through. It took me a long time, many years, to surround myself by people that actually understand what I'm doing, you know. And I find that the people who heal the best are the people that really make an effort to get to know the practitioner. They're sending emails, they're commenting on YouTube videos, you know, they're active in the WhatsApp groups, they're speaking to other clients, speaking to other people on the program. Maybe you just want to quickly talk about kind of how that's helped you, because I know that you're you know, you're fairly integrated at the moment.
Right. Yeah. No, that's great. When Luke made like a Telegram group, it's kind of more along the lines of cryptocurrency, but I guess the common theme about it is we're into that, but we're also into nutritional balancing. So like obviously nutritional balancing topics come up, and it's really one of those things. It's just a good opportunity to hear what other people are going through. You can kind of relate it to yourself a little bit, and then if you have an experience that's worth sharing, you can definitely share it. Or the crazy thing about Dr. Wilson's website is it's so deep, right? There's a lot of articles. What is it, 1,500 articles on there right now? So it's hard for somebody to kind of memorize or have all that content readily available. And like I've spent enough time now, just like every now and then I'll read something and it'll kind of stick with me, and then somebody will mention something like, hey, I'm dealing with this. I'm like, oh, hey, that reminds me of like this you know, paragraph in one of Dr. Wilson's articles, so I can like kind of share it and kind of propagate it forward. And then, you know, normally it seems like it's a good little piece of advice or a good little tidbit for somebody else, you know. And the good thing about that too is it kind of keeps you sharp, because you kind of forget all the stuff you've dealt with, you know, when you start feeling better. But then you can kind of say, oh yeah, I remember when that happened. I did this and it worked out for me. And like people are just looking for that little piece of advice to kind of get them to the next stage and get them to the next stage. So I really enjoy the fact that you got. And then there's that WhatsApp group you were talking about. That's more focused on just like nutritional balancing and just kind of health in general, right? Because it's a big program, and it is a lifestyle, so it kind of bleeds into all facets of your life, not just the diet and the supplements and the procedures. It's the relationship, the emotion, the stress, all that other kind of stuff that comes along with it. So it's just nice to have those people readily available. I mean, I think I woke up this morning, there were like 30 messages going on in the WhatsApp group. So it was like, well, you know, people were vibing back and forth. And the other cool thing about that too, especially if you're interested in becoming a practitioner at some point in time, is you just hear about more and more people's issues that they have. And you'll be like, oh yeah, like for me, I'm not really a girl, so I don't have a lot of the problems that girls have. You know what I mean? So when they talk about their problems, I'm like, oh, that's something I haven't thought of before. Oh, that's something I haven't thought of before, just because it's not really applicable to me, right? But if you're kind of on the path of becoming a practitioner, you know, you want to be well-rounded and well-versed in all things, right? Or at least know people that you can kind of reach out to as well. That can kind of be like, hey, because we're all just kind of doing this. He calls them helpers now, right? We're all just here to help each other get through, right? We're all here to be of service to each other. We're not all perfect. It's not like we have 10 years of experience and 10 medical degrees to back it up, but there's a lot to say about having the experience and having the results to, it's like proof is in the pudding, right? Like there's so many people and so many testimonials that have done the program and have fixed so many issues. I have a lot of confidence in the program. So when somebody comes at me with one of their issues, I can be like, well, because I'm like, oh yeah, somebody was talking about this in the WhatsApp group. Here's an article on Dr. Wilson's website, and here's some other information I looked up about it. This would be a better picture. Here you go, digest it, and then like you're helping that person a little bit more, right?
Yeah, it's a really good point. I know I made a video yesterday about kind of our mission and purpose. And when you actually start the program and you start to heal yourself, you start to realize that this is everyone's like mission on earth, is to purify the body, purify the mind, purify the emotions, and then help other people do the same. And in my opinion, the Nutritional Balancing Program is excellent at providing that, because you can start a program that starts to purify, starts to develop you, starts to make, it makes you feel better. And then you're speaking to people that are on a similar path and just helping other people. It's one of the best experiences in the world. It's just knowing that you've got information that can help another person.
So I mean,
really cool.
it really is. And now it's funny because people come to me and they're like, oh, I have this. And people like friends and family and stuff. Oh, I have this. Oh, I have this. Oh, I have this. And I can give them an answer. I haven't really successfully gotten anybody on the program yet. But, it kind of trickles in. Let's just put it that way. You lead by example. That helps a lot. Yeah, I got people that are knocking on the door about all this kind of stuff. So I think one day it'll facilitate into something. So I just kind of keep doing my part,
Cool, man. All right, so we've got a question. I'll read it out to you. Let's see. Is minimizing your social circle and life in terms of your general activities difficult for most people / you? I'm finding it hard because I am so used to being involved with lots of people so often.
Right. Oh, go ahead. You want me to go?
Yeah, no, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is hard because you're so used to kind of having a certain way of interacting with people, and people have expectations of you. And so to kind of let people down in one sense, it's just like, people expect you to come out, people expect you to talk with them, people expect you to do this kind of activity with them. And then when you start not living up to those expectations, it's kind of tough because you're like kind of disappointing them in some regard. And I think that the key to that is just understanding. Take like a couple steps back and think about it on like the big picture. Especially most of the people probably on this channel are pretty young, so if you take that was something that kind of kept it in perspective for me. It's like if I take like I'm 30, right? So it's like I've done just enough to kind of know what's going on, and I see things play out, to their entirety now. And I'm like, if I really take like 1 year off to like just better myself, it's really not that big of a deal. I always tell people like 2 months ago, or 2 years ago, what were you doing for 3 months? And most people can't even like remember that. You know what I mean? So people freak out about, oh, this is 90 days. Oh, this is 6 months, or this is whatever. But if you really, again, this is speaking from being 30. If you think about it back a little bit, the time spent on just kind of reeling it all in and taking care of yourself, it's not going to be that much time. And then when you come back out and you start kind of reconnecting with people and stuff, people will notice the change, and they'll pretty much respect what you're doing. I haven't had that issue where people are just like, no, man, you left me when it high and dry, and I'm never talking to you again. So it's like the people are going to be there when you get back. Actually, you might come back, you might realize like you don't really need these people in your life for whatever reason. I think, so it is tough, but I think it's worth it. I guess that's my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, for me, 7 years ago, you know, the people I was around was people basically vibrating at the level that I was vibrating at. Just sick in general, you know, not very good ways of thinking, not very wholesome. So I minimized my social circle, felt lonely, and then as I kind of developed and became, you know, more healthier, I kind of surrounded myself by people that were, you know, much more wholesome to be around. You know, and when I retreat sometimes, and say, you know, I need to kind of take a night off tonight, guys, or whatever, they totally respect that and understand that. And they're also the type of people that would do that themselves. So, you know, they would actually say to me, look, Lewis, I'm feeling tired, or, you know, I need to rest, or I'm going through this certain reaction or healing reaction, whatever, even though they're not in the program. And it's really interesting to be around people that's also on kind of a developmental path. You know, although nutritional balancing, obviously we find it to be our way of doing it. You know, it's not the be all and end all in terms of what's going off in the world. There's other people developing, you know, and if you can get in touch with them sorts of people as well, that really helps. So that's really good.
Yeah.
All right. So that's pretty much it for today. I don't want these testimonials to go on for too long because I want people to kind of jump in and get a good bite-sized chunk. But yeah, thanks a lot, Joe, man. It's been really good, really enlightening, nice perspective on things. What I'll do is I'll probably try and do these testimonials from each person, you know, like regularly. So maybe we'll get in touch in a year's time, a couple of years' time, and see the difference between now and then. That would be quite interesting for some people.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So that's everything. Unless you got anything else to say, Joe, any inspiration for people that maybe are watching this and are thinking about getting the program? I know it's a little bit weird. So is there anything that you would kind of give them advice on?
I would just say, if you're thinking about it at all, you know, reach out to Lewis, reach out to Luke, listen to me, listen to the other testimonials out there. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. This stuff works. It is hard. It's not necessarily the easiest thing, but it's well worth it. So if you're debating it, if you're having these problems in your life, if you're looking for answers and you don't have, you know, answers for them, I recommend the program.
Cool. All right. Cheers, man. So yeah. Anyone that's watching, if you want to get in touch, just send me an email, lewis@deephealingspace.com. Our website is www.deephealingspace.com. Until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll chat to you all soon. Cheers.